To learn more about Melissa Ferretti and get her guidance on how we can better show up as a community for Native peoples, Tiff sat down with the Herring Pond Wampanoag Tribe Chairwoman on our Open Here podcast.
I'm with Melissa Ferretti, Chairwoman for the Herring Pond Wampanoag Tribe. Welcome. So great to have you.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm excited to be here with you all.
We're excited to have you. Let's jump in. We're definitely going to talk about the tribe, but I just wanted to get some information about you first. What's your background? Where did you grow up?
Sure, yeah. So I'm a Plymouth girl. I was raised in Cedarville by an elder of my tribe, Verna Harding. Verna was born in 1905, and I like to say that because it gives you an idea of being raised by someone of that age at the time I was born in 68. So I'm raised in Cedarville my entire life, educated at Plymouth schools. It was Plymouth Carver school system at the time. Moved to New Hampshire in my senior year and graduated there. And I was only there a very short time because home was calling me. Became a mom fairly young. My first son was born right after my 21st birthday. So I spent a lot of time being a mom for a good 8 years or so, doing that thing. And about 30 is when I decided to sort of figure out what I wanted to be when I grow up. And I started taking some classes at 4Cs down Cape and worked for Mashpee Wampanoag Tribe for a few years. And then I went into real estate. And here I am, 2003. I've been licensed since, and I'm currently affiliated with Jack Conway and Company from the Cape Cod Sandwich office. And I am, as we know, I'm the chairwoman of the Herring Pond Wampanoag Tribe. I'm on my 4th term for the tribe. I just started in January, my 4th term. And I'm also on my last year of my first term as a select board member in the town of Bourne, in which I now live.
You're a busy woman. How do you sleep?
Not often, and not well.
It's all right. You're running on excitement and a robust life. I know it's hard because the Herring Pond Wampanoag Tribe has such a long, vibrant history, but can you kind of give us a brief overview of the tribe?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we all know the Pilgrim story, and we all know, that part of history. But the Herring Pond people have documented history since the arrival of the Pilgrims. We were written very early on in the historical records as the Herring Pond Indians, mostly referenced. We were part of John Cotton's congregation, and over the years, the Herring Pond tribe petitioned the government, the state, and several dozen times at least to assert our rights to either the herring or to assert our rights to the land, or are concerned about, land that may have been transferred without our knowledge. Post-contact, I always say, the traditional homelands of the Herring Pond tribe, it consisted of about 3,000 acres. So 3 separate lots, mostly in Plymouth and partly in Bourne. The biggest lot we called the Great Lot, which is it's from the borders of Great Herring Pond, extends all the way out to Pine Hills. And that was the biggest parcel. That was about 2,600 acres. Our 200-acre meeting house parcel, in which our meeting house still sits today down there in Cedarville, that is now dwindled to 0.43 of an acre, but it's still in our possession. And the Herring River lot, in which some of our families still live today, that is down in Bourndale, and that was 400 acres. So, of which we own about 7 acres now total.
Wow.
So we're working to obviously get some land back so that we can conserve it and protect the wildlife that lives there. But we're still here, walking amongst you, as you can see.
Yeah, you are. What kind of services do you provide for tribal members?
Well, we're working hard on, every day we work to grow and to get different pots of funding that are available to provide services for our tribe. Unfortunately, being a state tribe, the services that we're afforded are not as lucrative as it may be as if we were federally recognized, of course. So the services currently we are working on, we have a food sovereignty program that we've been working pretty diligently on. That's been a great experience. We have a traditional ecological knowledge project that we've been working on. And a lot of our resources currently we have to outsource because we just don't have the capacity internally to provide those services. We would look to our sister tribes possibly for some services that might be, that we may not be able to offer internally for Herring Pond. We would look to them or some of the urban Indian organizations as well. So we are busy growing, and we're doing that at a very rapid pace. Which is good and bad, right, in some senses, but we are getting there, yeah.
How would you describe Herring Pond as a community? I'm sure you're a very tight-knit community.
Well, yes, of course. I think our people. It's unique being a chairperson because your family is your constituents, right? So we love our family, but when you have to get your family in the room and you work very hard to do different things, we don't always see eye to eye. So it can be it's a great experience, and we are a tight-knit community, but we also face the same sort of issues, I think, that any family does. I would say we're a brave and resilient people. I think I even quote that on our website, that we are not a conquered people. We're brave and resilient people, well aware of our place in history. So our people are very proud. Our elders are very strong and mighty. Our youth are just amazing. We've got a lot of really amazing young adults, emerging adults. We've got a lot of littles in Herring Pond, which is really great because we always talk about our future generations. So we're a strong people.
A lot of people have jobs where they're not necessarily personally connected to that job. What does being chairwoman to the Herring Pond Wampanoag tribe mean to you?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, the reason that I started this work was when I look back and I think about Verna, and I remember the stories that she told me and how difficult it was for her during the time that she grew up. I mean, you can imagine, born in 1905, right, at a time of a tough time for a woman of color. And for me, I go back and I think about her, and I feel like I owe it to her to do this work. So it is very personal for me. And I probably have a more emotion into it than most, as you said, than most jobs, because it's personal. And my motivation really does come from a need to make Verna proud, and to, for her legacy and that of the ancestors to not be buried in history or buried in books and have our history erased. So
You just got a very big honor. You were recognized by the Massachusetts Commission on the Status of Women. What? Can you tell us about that? How cool are you?
Wow, I was shocked. So, we go through life, and I always say, and I still say, I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up, right? So and I say this when I do talks to youth or others, that, we go through life, especially as women in this society, and we often struggle with, imposter syndrome. Am I good enough? Am I smart enough? Do I really know that? Should I take that leap? Should I be doing this work? Can I do it? And we always doubt ourselves. So we go through life that way. But we keep going, right? We keep treading, and we don't realize that people are noticing and watching. And so State Representative David Vieira, when I got the notice that he had, nominated me for the award, I was just thrilled, and it just meant a lot because, for one, I've been nominated for seats on committees and things like that, but I had never been nominated for such a prestigious award through the state. And it was just amazing because we don't see ourselves the way others see us sometimes. So it's important that we sometimes take a look and give ourselves a little pat on the back, right? So for me, I think I needed it because you go on and we're just so motivated to make change, and, I'm not going to quit. I want to keep going and get this done. And we don't take a second to say, you did a good job today. and give yourself a boost. So it really did. It really was good timing because this work can be very. It can be exhausting sometimes, and it can be defeating in many ways doing this work, especially in Indian country, and because so many people don't understand Native people.
Is that one of the challenges that you face most, is just misunderstanding?
Well, I think for us, overall, I think for Native people, I would say, yeah, sure. I think a lot of times people just don't understand. And people are afraid sometimes. And I get this a lot. They're like, oh, I just didn't want to say it wrong. Or I was so afraid I was going to insult you or, say it this way or that way. It is a challenge. But I think people are at least mindful of it. I think the biggest challenges that we face as Herring Pond is constantly having to tell people who we are, right? And we've been here. Our history doesn't lie. The history is there. It's well written. And even in settings where we're in Indian country, as a state tribe, you get marginalized a lot. We even get, that's the hardest part for me, is constantly having to explain to people who we are, and just because they're like, they don't understand, and they're like, well, we only know the federally recognized tribes. So there's this myth that if you're not federally recognized, that you're not a tribe, and that's not entirely accurate. It's accurate in some ways because you can't create a new tribe. Tribes are supposed to be consistent and have continuity, and they are supposed to be, that's how it works. But to be a tribal government, the federal government doesn't identify us. We don't let the federal government identify us. Federal recognition is a political decision, and it does offer benefits that, of course, we are working toward as a state tribe. But our the biggest challenge is really having to explain ourselves all the time, but also just finding ourselves being denied benefits, and just often you feel like you're looked down upon because you haven't been able to obtain that federal recognition yet. And it's such nonsense. Our federal sister tribes, they know who we are. The history is well written. So the hardest part is when we encounter that mindset from whether it be Native people or non-Native people who really don't understand. Again, it goes right back to do the research, read the history, and then So I think for us, it's really, we're definitely hindered and harmed in many ways simply because the Commonwealth of Massachusetts just does not have a legislative process to vet their tribes. Many states do, but having a legislative process protects the tribes, and it actually funnels funds to the tribes that otherwise the state would pay for. So it actually helps the state. So we're working toward that, and that's a huge issue for us, and that's one of my biggest, one of my bucket list items is to get that recognition done.
How can non-Native people show up for the Herring Pond Wampanoag tribe? How can we be there for you as a community?
Wow. I think that when we're working, we've had such amazing. Plymouth has been, I'll say this, when we asked the town to return Dinah Path to us back in 2019, we were scared to death to walk into that town meeting and ask, right? We shouldn't be, right? It was our land. We weren't asking for something that wasn't ours in the first place, but we were frightened of what our reception would be. And we were welcomed, and the town of Plymouth welcomed us with open arms, and we got a unanimous decision to give us that land back, right? To deed it back to the tribe, because that was the right thing to do. So I think the town of Plymouth is already doing that. Just that alone gave us that hope. So I think today, like right now, we're working toward land acknowledgements that they do, what they use. I know currently, I think it's only Open Space who does the land acknowledgement, but I think there's the DEI committee and the League of Women Voters is working toward trying to get the land acknowledgement in more of the departments. And it just becomes with, just as again, it goes right back to educating themselves. I think the best thing that people can do to show up is to learn the history and to know who we are. I think that's really the greatest honor that we could have, is to be acknowledged by the people and our peers and the people who are neighbors.
What do you think the future holds for you and the tribe?
Well, I hope that before I leave this earth, I do hope that we have our recognition, so that I can go to my grave and know that my grandchildren are going to be able to keep the continuity and to continue this legacy on. I mean, it's an important history. Plymouth, right? We talk about America's hometown. The history of this country, it exists because of our people and because of Herring Pond Indians and Mashpee and Aquinnah and all of the other tribes locally. So I see big things for Herring Pond. It's a lot of work, but I see great things for us in the future.
Well, if there's anyone who can do it, it's you. You are a Wonder Woman. Congratulations again on your recognition. Very well deserved. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Hey friend, thanks for stopping by. If you like this video by The Local Scene, share the love and give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe.